I was teaching at Oklahoma State. I'm going to stand up, I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to shut up. Basically, this is deja vu for me. I'm stuck between Joshua Salesson and between Peter Gertzel. Well, the first one of these seminars I went to was in Denver. They said, bring some of your little stuff. So I did, and I put it on the table. Joshua put his stuff on one side of me, and Jean-Claude Caprion put his on the other side of me. I looked at that, I reached down, got my box, and started putting all my stuff away. Joshua told me, he said, don't do that. All of us had to start where you are today. So that's basically what this is all about. Now, where's this button at? Huh? Oh, yeah.
Forward.
Oh, okay.
Backwards.
Okay. This is a picture of Jeff Edwards' Curvilinear that he bought from David Lindau. We had a seminar at Jeff's father's place about a year ago. And there was a presentation on the Curvilinear. Charles Wagner got up and made a comment. He said, the way the situation is set up, he said, I think it needs to be changed to a linear slide with a cable for weight. So thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. I had spent quite a bit of money buying this lathe, so my wife said, you know, you're retired, but you're spending money like you're still working. And I wanted to go buy the Curvilinear, and I said, how much it? She said, how much it is? And I told her, she said, you make your own. So to make a long story short, this is the first prototype that I made. I took it to Louisiana last fall when we had the workshop down in Slidell. And they laughed at me because it's got rubber bands on it. Well, that didn't work out too well. So the next thing I did, this is the first piece that I turned, and it was all hand cranked. There was no power on it at all. And that worked fairly well, but the problem is when you got a long piece, like Joshua said, you can't stop cranking. You got to keep cranking till you get to the end. Well, I decided I didn't like that. So I got rid of this one has a shoreline cross-side with rubber bands and the bands were replaced by a weighted cable, as you can see. The next one, I had problems with turning because the lead screw and the way I had it hooked up was too fast and I was getting almost a spiral cut. So I got rid of that and I decided, well, the thing to do is try to do what David did. And I came up with all kinds of configuration, different pulleys. Didn't work out for me at all. So I decided the thing to do was to get rid of that. And I put a linear slide and the little machine shop OXA tool holder, the real low one, so that I could get the cutter down to the right height. This is one of the pieces, a square piece that I turned, and I added a reversible variable voltage DC motor that I bought from Amazon for $14. Changed the gearing around and it's turning about 4 revolutions a minute and it still wasn't getting a good cut. So I changed the gearing down. That motor turns 3.5 RPM a minute. I've got it geared down to where it turns 1/4 of 1 turn per minute. That's awful slow, but it gives a very smooth cut. Okay. Back up here. I added a cable bracket on the side so that when you move the Hardy slide over back and forth, you wouldn't hit the table where the weight's coming off the table. And that seems to work out real well. This is the second piece that I turned with the DC motor at a steady 1/4 turn per revolution, and that worked real well until I decided to hollow it out the same way, And I've got this bad habit of trying to make things too thin, and I went right through the side. Not once, not twice, but 3 different pieces. So my friend told me, he said, well, and said, the only thing I know to tell you is the way to stop that is quit turning them so thin. So we did that. Anyway, to make a long story short, y'all don't have to do everything the same way. The gentleman before me used a different method. Dan Henry lives close to me, and Dan said when he got home from vacation, he said, well, you get all the bugs out of that, and then I want to copy it. So he did, but his is altogether different. And let's see, trying to hurry up here. He's got a different style stand with drawers and a different switch placement. Is a variable voltage supply. It goes from 3.5 to 12.5 volts, and that will control the speed to a certain degree, and we've not had any problems with the motors getting hot at all. It seems to have plenty of torque. Okay. Dan added a crank on the end to his. He's got a 2-step pulley. I didn't do it exactly the way that he did. Now Dan's got a really sophisticated cable system on his, and I was giving him a hard time about using that rope because I use a stainless steel fishing leader that I got from Bass Pro Shop. But then when we came in today, Dan says, come over here and look at this. And there's another one that's got a string on it, so I didn't see any more. My steel stand has a magnetic holder, as you can see, for the vacuum. The vacuum's right down below it for the dust collector, and my switch placement is in a totally different place. I've got it laying on that cross piece that the crank mechanism stands in. Dan did something else too. He put adjustable cutoff stops on his. He's got micro switch on both ends. And he's got a different situation for his wiring. His overhead arm is a little different. Mine, the cable runs in front of the overhead arm. Attachment to the cross slide. This is the way the whole thing is put on. It's just an aluminum T-nut that I made, and it bolts right on top of my regular Hardy slide. I didn't have to modify much of anything to do that. Okay, my latest innovation or project has been, after I went through the side hollowing the inside of that out, I made a laser. I called David and I got that long cutter that he had, modified it, and I made a laser system. As you can see, the laser is right here. And I've got it adjusted to where it just barely touches the end of the cutter, so I know exactly where it is. Also, if you'll notice that the tailstock that I've got on mine is different from David's. I didn't think it was long enough because when you put a Beal chuck on it, you don't have much room left and you can't put a tailstock on. So I made the tailstock adjustable for length, and I've had really good luck with that. Bottom line, I want to say this one thing. You know, we all kind of dance to a different tune or a different drum beat. Jimmy Clues, who's a famous wood turner, how many of you know who Jimmy Clues is? Jimmy Clues made the comment one time, and he was talking about Raffin and some of the others. He said, some of them old boys say you got to do it this way. He said, that's rubbish. You see, you do it the way that works best for you. So when I think about all of this, I realize that, you know, I don't have the knowledge these people do. And when I was embarrassed when I put my stuff down at Denver, I began to think about my gymnastics coach when I was in high school. He said, Martin, get up and do your exercise. When you think about it, you get in trouble. Just get up and do it. And that's the way that this whole situation is. Bottom line, you got to think outside of the box. One of the gentlemen I drink coffee with, his name is Jimmy Shearer. He's a retired engineer from Texas Instruments. Several years ago, his boss called him. He said, Jim, I need you to come up and cut some crystals for me today. They were in there working, and his boss name was Jack Kilby. Now, you may not know him, but look him up on the internet. Jack Kilby was the individual that, I'm about ready to tell you what he did. He was sitting there working and he said, well, I'll be damned. Jimmy said, what's the matter? He said, it works. You know what it was? The first integrated circuit. Jimmy was present when that actually happened. That changed the world. Everything that John was talking about a minute ago all hinged on the fact that Jack Kilby thought outside of the box. So I implore you to think outside of the box. Life is what it is, and most importantly, it is what you make of it. Thank you.